You know, I love those declarations. It's so important that we know what God says about us, and it's so important that we say what God says about us. Because how many of you know life happens, and life can be difficult? Life will try to push us down. Unfair things happen to us. Sometimes we go through difficult and traumatic experiences that can take the wind out of our sails. Difficult and traumatic experiences that the devil tries to use to keep us stuck, to keep us from our destiny. Oftentimes we're tempted to wear labels that others have placed on us, divorced, or an addict, or a victim. And these labels, if we aren't careful, can become our identity. I have a friend who was born out of wedlock. And when she got old enough to read, she read on her birth certificate the word illegitimate. And that word got stuck in her mind. That word became her identity. For years, she thought she had no worth or value because she was illegitimate. Or perhaps negative words that have been spoken over us have taken root in our mind and begin to play over and over in our thoughts. And the enemy, who's called the accuser, will amplify those negative words. I have another friend whose dad was angry and mean and abusive. In fits of rage, he would back her into a corner and scream, "You'll never amount to anything." And then he would make her say those words about herself, "I will never amount to anything." Can you imagine the damage that those negative words did to that young child? And then often God has placed dreams in our heart, and we know He has good plans for our lives, but as life happens, it seems as if those dreams could never come to pass. But friends, the good news is this. We serve a God who sees everything that's happened to us. In Genesis 16, He's called El Rai, the God who sees. And He hears all the negative things that have been spoken over us. And Hebrews tells us that Jesus is our faithful high priest. He's touched by the feelings of our infirmities. He feels what we're going through. He sympathizes with us. Think about it. A God who sees, a God who hears, and a God who feels what we're going through. We serve a God who promises us beauty for all of our ashes. We serve a God who can heal the broken places in our lives, a God who can restore us. We serve a God of justice, a God who makes the wrong things right, who makes the enemy pay for the injustice he brought on our lives. We serve a God who is faithful to His word. He finishes what He started. He brings dreams that seem dead back to life. And we serve a God who takes what the enemy meant for evil and He uses it for our good and His glory. See, that's exactly what He did for my friend Elizabeth. She went through a very traumatic experience that the enemy wanted to use to keep her from her destiny. For 12 long years, voices in her mind told her that she was forever a victim, that she would never get back on track, that the dreams God had for her life would never come to pass. But the God of justice and restoration and redemption had the final say in Elizabeth's life. Listen as she shares her story.
My childhood was amazing. I used to come running off the bus as fast as I can every day and opening up that sliding glass door. And I'd walk in and I'd be like, "I just had the best day ever." And they'd be like, "Are you serious? You said that yesterday." And I'm like, "No, it was the best day ever."
Always the best day ever when she walked into the house, 7 days a week, 31 days of the month.
I can remember being a little girl, about 12, 13 years old, staring out my bedroom window. I just knew that there was more to my life than being in Napoleon, Michigan. And I knew that God was going to call me to do something great someday. I had no idea what it was or where it was, but I just felt it in my spirit that there was something out in those clouds that I was going to be doing something great somewhere. I got involved in athletics. In 4th grade, I started playing basketball and volleyball and softball, and it was a great outlet for me. By 6th grade, I realized I'm pretty good at this. And I started putting more time into it. So it's the summer before my senior year, and my mom gets me a job mopping the operating rooms at Mott Children's Hospital. And I'm thinking this is gonna ruin my free time. And I get there that first week, and I'm looking through the operating room door, and I see this nurse anesthetist named Diane, and one day she's giving the anesthesia to a tiny baby, and the next day a 12-year-old, and they're on different parts of the body. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do that someday. I want to be a nurse anesthetist. My dream is to play college basketball and go to nursing school somehow at the same time. I started getting letters from local Division II and III schools. They were gonna allow me to play basketball, you know, for all 4 years, and I would come out with no debt. I have this favorite athlete, and every time he was on TV, I was just like enamored and glued to the TV. And one day my mom comes home from work and was like, I met your hero. And I remembered standing up and jumping up in the air, and I was shocked, like, my hero, you just met my hero. And so I wrote him a letter, and a couple days later he wrote me back, and that was the start of this mentorship, and where he became part of our family. I remember it was like a Monday or a Tuesday, and he called the house and he was like, hey, I've got this weekend off. And so I didn't tell my mom and dad, because I'm like, oh my gosh, she's coming to see me, and we're gonna go to my friend Lori's house. And over the next hour, I had 6 or 7 shots. And as you can imagine, I became very, very drunk quickly. And I remember thinking that I needed to go lay down. And the next thing I remember is that I had passed out, and I woke up to my hero sexually assaulting me. I became very self-destructive, trying to cope. And I turned to alcohol and marijuana, trying to drown out all those thoughts and feelings I had every time I looked at myself in the mirror, that I was a victim. I wasn't worthy. And I think by Christmas I'd gained 30 pounds, and I remember laying under the Christmas tree that year with my mom, and we were laying on the floor holding hands, and we're staring at the lights, and it's dark in the room. And I remember her saying, what is wrong with you? Something is wrong with you. From that day on, it felt like the little girl that had the best day ever was gone. Like, she was dampened.
You know something drastic had happened, but yet you can't get it out of your child what it was that has caused the depression, the anxiety, and you hurt within your heart.
I went from being the class clown to being popular and having so many friends to feeling like that rape sucked the life out of me. And I gave up on basketball. I lost all my scholarships. I graduated from nurse anesthesia school at 29 years old, and I went to therapy for 53 straight Wednesday nights. And during that time, I renewed my relationship with God, and I started genuinely praying for my former hero. And through all of that is when God really began to heal me. And I was able to forgive him fully, and I feel at peace for the first time since the night that rape occurred. I thought that my calling was going to be working with local foster care and orphan children. Then my coworker asked me if I wanted to go on a mission trip to Kenya, and that changed my life forever. The first time I went to Kenya, I thought it would be a one and done trip, that I would go help give anesthesia for a few days and do some surgeries and then go on safari. And now, 21 mission trips later, with over 600 of my colleagues, we've performed over 1,200 surgeries and treated another 7,000 patients medically. And it is the most soul-filling thing I've ever done with my life. And now, what's even more mind-blowing to me is that I'm the succession plan to be the next CEO of KenyaRelief.org. I enrolled in a doctorate program in global health administration, and they've taken me to Geneva, to the World Health Organization, and to the United Nations. And I say all of that not to brag, But that little girl who was looking out her bedroom window would have never dreamed that that's where God would take her and call her to, and that God often uses our deepest pains as the launching pad of our greatest callings.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough.
Words spoken over me were rape victim and broken.
Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up.
Pimp, dealer, and failure.
Forsaken, dying, finished.
Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low?
Words spoken over me were abandoned, unwanted, and ugly.
Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know.
Gang member,
Death,
fatherless,
despair.
You say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I am strong when I think I am weak, and you say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe.
But God said, I am beautiful and I am redeemed.
Leader, influence, and father.
peace, righteousness, and family.
The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me.
But God said, beautiful, mother, never alone.
In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity.
But God said forgiven, healthy, and just getting started.
You say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing, and you say I am strong when I think I am weak, and you say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe.
Health, favor, and restoration.
What you say of me, I believe.
God said, hope.
God said, hope.
God said, hope.
You know, you may be here this morning and you can relate to Elizabeth's story. Maybe you too have been through a difficult experience, and now there are thoughts in your mind telling you that you'll never be enough. Maybe labels someone said over you years ago that are still holding you back, or maybe a dream you know God's placed in your heart, but it seems like it could never come to pass. As we sing this next song, let's release those thoughts and let's embrace the freedom that Jesus came to give us. Let's receive and declare the thoughts that God says about us, that we are chosen and not forsaken, that He is for us and not against us, that we're children of the Most High God, and that what God says we are, we will become. Let's stand and declare those words together in victory.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Come on. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last He has ransomed. His grace runs deep. Come on. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Come on. Yes, He died.